Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's simple. Hey, I am Chuck the Bureaucrat, and there is a particular word that you as a Pentagon bureaucrat have to keep an eye out for because it can generate massive problems. That word is simple. And one of the most common ways that this will crop up, although there are plenty, is when an operational executive says to like an analytical action officer, listen, just give me a simple summary table. What the executive wants the analyst to do is boil all the complexity of a massive data set down to just 3 to 5 rows. You know, the kind of thing that you could put on a PowerPoint slide and show to a congressional staffer. And let's be clear, there is a distinct need for a summary that is simple, easy to communicate and understand. The executive is not wrong for asking for this. It's just that the analyst has to recognize the danger in this situation and act accordingly. All right, first of all, here is the danger. When an analyst takes a data set and scrunches it down, they have to make a whole bunch of assumptions. One of the best examples comes from personnel data. The Department of Defense follows the U.S. Census Bureau's data structure for having 2 dimensions to describe an individual: their race and their ethnicity. Race includes things like white, black, Native American, Asian, and ethnicity notably includes Hispanic. So it is possible for an individual to describe themselves as a black Hispanic or even an Asian Hispanic. But frequently, a manpower analyst has to convert those 2 dimensions into a single dimension, typically one that includes black, white, Hispanic, and other. So they have to figure out how they're going to count people who are, say, black and Hispanic. And once the analyst has made all these decisions, it's often difficult to figure out what the assumptions were just by looking at the final simple table. Sometimes we say, you can't unbake the cake. In fact, sometimes, even with the original data, you can't quite figure out what the analyst did. I mean, just imagine 2 years after this simple analysis was generated, some new guy gets stuck with the task of replicating the analysis. It can turn into a big mess. In fact, I've seen analysts who couldn't even replicate their own process the day after they submitted that simple report. That means that keeping things simple, well, it can become a frustrating problem. What are you going to do about it? Yeah, you got to document your process, but it's not enough to just keep that documentation on your hard drive. The documentation has to live as close to the final product as possible. And bear in mind, you're probably not going to be able to put a dozen footnotes on that final product. Although, if you have a big assumption, like counting people who are black and Hispanic as black, then you probably need to argue for putting that in the footnotes. Instead, you should aim to include the instructions for generating the final product in sort of an intermediate document. For example, if you use an Excel spreadsheet to convert raw data into the finished product, then include the instructions on how you did it in that spreadsheet. Additionally, the increasing popularity of task management tools like ETMS2, it creates an opportunity to archive the instructions on how to go from raw data to finished product, along with the other documents associated with the task. Because at the end of the day, one of the ways in which your organization projects credibility is by being consistent and being able to explain how they generated the results that they provide. And if you want to learn more about how to boost your own credibility, watch this video.